Hello everyone, welcome to this virtual presentation. I'm delighted to have you here with me today and let's make this worthwhile, and now let's dive into our presentation. So today I will be discussing about the teaching and learning speaking, where we will dig deeper on its competence and also the teaching speaking cycle. So most of the teachers of the speaking skills encounter students who are not confident when they speak, or some might say they speak as if they are reading a book, or maybe they are talkative but they often make grammatical errors. So this kind of observation are not uncommon, as learning to speak in another language is a challenging undertaking. Speaking is highly complex and a dynamic skill that involves the use of simultaneous processes. It's cognitive, physical, and socio-cultural, and a speaker's knowledge and skills have to be activated rapidly in real time. It is important, therefore, that speaking should be taught explicitly in language classrooms. Simply doing speaking and through a series of activities is not the same as learning the knowledge, skills, and strategies of speaking. So, according to Johnson, 1996, he describes speaking as combinatorial skill that involves doing various things at the same time. To teach speaking holistically and comprehensively, it is valuable for teachers to be knowledgeable about what speaking competence involves and how different aspects of speaking competence relate to each other. According to Gaw and Burns to 2012, competence in speaking involves the following components. First is knowledge of language and discourse. Next is core speaking skills, and then communication strategies. So the first component, knowledge of language and discourse, requires mastering the sound patterns of the language. In English, this means being able to pronounce the language intelligibly at segmental and suprasegmental levels, knowing the grammar and vocabulary of the language, and understanding how stretches of connected speech, such as discourse or the genre, are organized so that they are socially and pragmatically appropriate. The next competence is core speaking skills, which refers to developing the ability to process speech quickly to increase fluency. Example is speech rate, chunking, pausing, formulaic language, or discourse markers. It also involves being able to negotiate speech, for example, building on previous utterances, monitoring understanding, repairing communications breakdown, and also giving feedback, as well as managing the follow of speech as it unfolds. Example of this is initiating topics, turn taking, signaling intentions, opening and closing conversations. So the third component, excuse me, the third component is communication strategies. It involves developing cognitive strategies that compensate for limitations in language knowledge. For example, circumlocution, paraphrasing, gestures, word coinage, approximation, and avoidance. Metacognitive strategies, for example, planning in advance what to say, thinking consciously about how you say it, and interaction strategies. Example of these are asking for clarification or repetition, reformulating, rephrasing, and checking comprehension. What this model implies is that speaking lessons are not just occasions for simply practicing or doing speaking. They need to be conceptualized as structured and supported learning opportunities that develop these various components of speaking competence. It is important that teachers guide learners systematically, introducing activities that are integrated and sequenced and that allow them to raise their awareness of the knowledge, skills, and strategies needed for different types of interaction and discourse. So, with that, um, I will now present a teaching speaking cycle opined by Gaw and Burns 2012. So, for planning a holistic and sequenced series of speaking activities, there are 7 stages included in this cycle, and I'm going to discuss each one of them. So, let's start with the first stage, which is focus learners' attention on speaking. This first stage is to do with raising metacognitive awareness about speaking and has 2 main purposes. First is to encourage learners to plan for overall speaking development. Next is to prepare learners to approach the specific speaking task. In this stage, you may ask your student why do they want to learn English language, or what do they like the most in English, or what they don't like, and so much more. Now let's move on to the next stage, which is provide input and or guide planning. So in this stage, speaking in a second language can create deal of anxiety of language learners, and so it is very important that teachers provide support for the speaking task, giving learners time for planning what to say or how to say it. The purpose of this preparation stage includes introducing or teaching new language, enabling learners to recognize their developing linguistic knowledge, and activating existing linguistic knowledge. In this stage involves scaffolding, learning, and preparation to meet the demands of the speaking task. So, according to Maybin, Mercer, and Sterer, 1992, explain the concept of scaffolding as not just any assistance which helps a learner accomplish a task. It is help which will enable a learner to accomplish a task which they would not have been quite able to manage on their own. And it is help which is intended to bring the learner closer to a state of competence which will enable them eventually to complete such a task on their own. The third stage is all about conducting speaking tasks. Teachers provide speaking tasks for students to practice, as students are guided on how to plan their speech in stage. In other words, this stage of the cycle encourages learner to develop fluency and expression without having to pay too much attention to accuracy of form. This stage should be less demanding for the learners because of the teacher-guided or individual pre-task planning that has taken place in stage number 2. The fourth stage is focus on language, skills, and strategies. This cycle aims at creating opportunities for learners to improve language accuracy as well as to enhance their effective use of skills and strategies according to Byrne 2019. In this stage, the teacher draws learners' attention to selected parts of the fluency task they have completed that needs attention. The parts could include language features such as pronunciation, grammar, and text structures, as well as vocabulary. In the stage 5, which is repeat speaking task, at this stage, learners carry out the speaking task from stage 3 again. The difference between stage 3 and stage 5 is that learners have now had a chance to analyze and practice selected language items or skills during stage 4. Therefore, they are able to apply this knowledge to enhance their performance, and repetition could be carried out by repeating parts of the original task, or repeating the entire task, or having student change group or partners. So there are still 2 stages that needs to be discussed, but that is going to be discussed by my partner, which is the next presenter. And that's it for my presentation. Thank you so much for taking the time to listen to my visual presentation. If you have any clarification, you can ask me through Messenger or comment it in our Google Class. That's all for today. Once again, thank you everyone, and have a blessed day.